Recording. So Jeff, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for sister school board.
I'm a 73-year-old guy, still with lots of energy. Several years ago, Jim Golden, who was our superintendent, said, "Jeff, you're old, but you're not tired." And I thought, that's a nice thing to say to some guy who was probably 65 at that time, and I'm still not tired. I think I was born with a public service gene, and I'm still anxious to do that. Why am I running? On Wednesday of this week, we had a meeting at the high school. And this was part of our mission and visioning process, where we're looking forward, gathering input from community members. And this was a meeting of teachers to take, oh gosh, a list of 25 good things we ought to be doing in the future and say, what are our chief priorities? What are 1, 2, and 3 on this list of things? And I just went there to listen. I wasn't participating, I was just listening to what they had to say. After the meeting was over, I went down to the wood shop with our woodshop teacher. And Tony and I have been friends for a long time, and talked about everything from our kids, or in my case, grandkids, to CPAP machines, to everything else. And a young man came in. It wasn't somebody that I knew, and he came in to apologize for not having been in class the day before. He said, "I told the biology teacher, and I'm not sure she got the message to you." This young man had come in, one, to apologize, and two, because he was interested in being an architect. And I don't know if you know this, but our high school woodshop kids build guitars and ukuleles, and they are phenomenal. You just can't, it's hard to believe that high school kids with 3 months of building an Adirondack chair graduate into building just amazing guitars. This guy, and typically the guitar builders are seniors in high school, but he wanted to have this guitar completed by the beginning of his senior year, and he would put it into his application packet to get into architecture school. I listened, and I thank that young man for making my day, because that's why I run for the school board. I care about kids, and to see this young man, I don't even know his name, who has the confidence, the good sense to step forward and say, this is how I get a good education. And I've worked for a long time to try and create an environment where kids can be successful in our schools.
So Jeff, when I look at your education via here, it looks like there has not been a time when you were not involved in the schools. Am I reading this correctly?
Yeah, no, I think that's not true. I graduated from Oregon State, immediately began coaching wrestling as an assistant there, went to Oregon, coached there for a while. And then there was probably an 8 or 10 year period when I moved to Southern California to begin my professorial career, that I really wasn't very involved in formal education. Okay. When my kids got to be 6 or 7, I started coaching soccer, even though I didn't understand the game. I didn't know how to kick the ball, I didn't know what the positions were. But at that point in time, nobody else knew. And we needed somebody to do this. So I followed an Irishman and a German around, and tried to learn as much as I could. So formally, I really wasn't involved in schools for maybe an 8 or 10 year period there.
Of your life.
Of my life.
Yeah. It almost qualifies.
Almost.
I mean, besides teaching in higher ed at that time.
Besides, yeah, that's right. Okay.
So
Thanks.
I want to ask you just a really basic question, just that sometimes helps voters. What do you believe the role of a school board member is?
First place, I have worked real hard to figure out what that role is. The Oregon School Boards Association has a school board school, essentially, where you give up, I think, 5 weekends, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday mornings, to learn what the role is.
Mm-hmm.
In the little sheet I gave you here, show up and be prepared. You need to come to almost every school board meeting, and you need to read your materials before you get there. You need to provide policy, broad policy direction for the school district. You need to pass the budget. You need to hire the superintendent, and you need to help that superintendent make your schools as effective as you can. You want to stay out of day-to-day operations of the school, and at the same time you want to listen to the people in your community who are happy or unhappy with various aspects of your school, so that you can help the superintendent be a better superintendent and help the kids have a better education.
And you're currently a school board member.
I am currently a school board member. I was on for 12 years, and at the end of that 12 years is enough, okay? There's no doubt about that. The school board was in good shape. We had 2 real veteran people, one lady with a PhD in economics from Harvard, an attorney, each of whom had been on the board for 5 or 6 years. The board was in good shape, a couple of new young voices. That's just exactly the kind of mix you want. Within a couple of years, those 2 people had dropped off the board. And so the board, the complexion of the board was very different. And the chair at the time said there was an opening for appointment, and the chair came to me and said, "Jeff, we could use another experienced hand on board." So I came back, and then I served about 1.5 years then, and was elected unopposed for a 4-year term 4 years ago.
So certainly you've had a lot of experience with the budgeting process, and so there's a couple elements that are kind of afoot right now. One is, of course, the day of action that's happening across the state.
Okay.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are about different districts' approaches to that. Closing the schools, keeping the schools open, and what you find appropriate there.
Part of the conversation I had with my good friend Tony Cosby, he came to me, we were friends, he said, I'm kind of working to organize this May 8th event, and we're going to come to the district office after school is over and express our belief, wow, it's a fact, we need more money for our schools. Our school year is shorter than most districts in the state. I mean, most districts, most states in the country. And we are fortunate in Sisters that we have the local option that provides us with about $1 million of extra money. And $1 million is real money for us. And that money all goes into the classroom. You don't heat the buildings anymore, you don't run the buses anymore, you don't mow the lawn anymore. All of those things are the same. The dollars go into the classroom. Mm-hmm. And we have small class sizes, which is what our community wants from the local option dollars. So I'm not sure, I've kind of run around the bush here a little bit, but I'm supportive of the teachers. I'm pleased that we have the positive kind of relationship with our teachers. One that Tony would say, hey Jeff, here's what we're doing. We don't want to be disruptive to the educational process for our kids. We're going to come to the district office and I hope you'll join us. And I will. They've got a good beef to make, and if I can help them, I will.
Jeff, why do you think it is that Oregonians fund schools at such a low level?
I don't know. It doesn't make sense, does it? This is a state that is relatively prosperous, relatively well educated. People seem to value education. It's possible. Well, I'm going to get academic here, and I try not to do that because...
Well, that's our job, to try to get you to be academic.
Oh, well. I can cite studies. When I taught public finance, governmental finance, as a college professor, one of the arguments is that a good revenue system involves taxes on income, taxes on wealth, which is the property tax, and taxes on consumption. We have two of those legs, and I think it keeps us from having a good, robust tax base. I'm not going to advocate for a sales tax in Oregon. The old saw has been that Oregon will never have a sales tax, and you'll never be able to pump your own gas. Well, we've started.
Yeah, we started to wear that one away.
Right? We'll get that one away. That's just kind of off the top of my head.
Right.
That maybe we don't have sufficient resources to do that.
Right.
So I know it's a different animal in Sisters because, as you said, you have your local option, and
yes,
the schools have a lot of support in the community in a lot of different ways. But speaking broadly across the state, I'm just curious if you know that that those three prongs make a good tax system, why you wouldn't advocate for a sales tax, or why you say you wouldn't?
I'm a realist.
Okay.
The fact is, we couldn't pass a sales tax in this state, no matter what we did. The School Boards Association and some business leaders have worked on a proposal to generate some more money. Tell you the truth, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that they created this model with an eye on having it be sellable to the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That before we've tried to develop an ideal model, and if you can't get the citizenry to buy it, it doesn't matter how logical and sensible it is.
Yeah, we were just speaking to a potential candidate in Redmond who thought AstroTurf was the death nail for their bond.
Right.
Well, we want to just, discuss PERS quickly. Again, I know a lot of it, of course, the Sisters has to handle the burden of this just along with every other district. So, the PERS issue is going to continue to drive up budgets or drive up the costs. How do you see yourself managing that as a board member?
The solutions for the PERS problem are so limited. We have the legislature promised the PERS recipients pretty lucrative retirement benefits. And the courts have held, you promised them this, they worked 20, 25, 30 years for you, you can't undo that. And so that piece of it isn't going to change. We've made some alterations in the last decade or so to have Tier 2 and Tier 3 people who don't have such lucrative benefits. But the legislature created this problem, and the legislature is really the key. Go back to money.
Yeah.
The key to pay for it. We did create a bond funding mechanism 12, 14 years ago that has made our burden a little less than it is for lots of districts. But there aren't very good solutions to PERS.
So you feel like you're perhaps less burdened by all of this because your community has supported your schools in ways that...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's hard to overestimate the kind of support we have from our community. I mean, the folk festival and the science club and the
You got Sisters Starry Nights.
Starry Nights, the Schools Foundation, just all of those groups. And to tell you the truth, I've worked hard over the years to create good relationships with those folks because they create tremendous opportunities for our children in our schools.
Do you believe the outcomes in the sister schools are bearing out because of that support?
Oh, absolutely. Our science scores are better than anybody else around, and I provide part of the credit for that to the science club. They do some extraordinary things for us.
What about graduation rates? Do you think that those are where they should be?
Gosh. Our graduation rates have always been near the top for Central Oregon schools. Do I wish we were at 100%? When you're at 92, 93%, it's hard to get much higher than that.
Right.
If you start out at 50, it's pretty easy to get to 60 or 65. If you're at 92, it's real tough to get to 95. One of the things, how do I say this? We have some students who are in the Heart of Oregon program that our district operates with students from Bend and Redmond and Madras and elsewhere. Some of those students are sisters' kids, and some of them have the potential to get a high school diploma. Some of them are so deficient in their coursework that they're not going to get there. For me, we ought to take a chance on those kids who have some prospect of getting to graduation. Now, what does that mean? It means some of those kids won't make it. And then what does that do? it hurts our published graduation rate. And for me, we did the right thing for kids, and I'll live with a little lower graduation rate because it is good for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Can I answer your question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a rural school district, and so I'm wondering what your thoughts are about the problem with guns, school violence, whether teachers should be armed. Can you speak to that topic a little bit?
I don't believe it's a good idea to put guns in the hands of untrained teachers. I don't believe in having a teacher go to a 2-day class or something like that to be prepared to have a gun in school. Much of we passed a bond 3 years ago, essentially, and much of the work we've done is to make our schools safer, to decrease the possibility that somebody can come into our schools and harm our children and our teachers. We tried to do that in a way that didn't create a prison kind of an atmosphere in our schools. And I think we've done a good job with that.
What are some of, if you're elected again, do you have any specific priorities or anything that anything new on the horizon that you want to work toward?
You know, it kind of goes back to my role as a school board member. I don't see myself as the person who's coming up with the next great idea for our schools. We have a superintendent that we hired to be an instructional leader. I will do everything I can to help him be successful. We're doing things differently today than we did 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We're much more concerned about the social, emotional wellness of kids, and we will continue to put some energy on that. Our math scores haven't been as good as we would like. We're in the process of putting a new math curriculum in, and that goes with a whole series of educational efforts for our teachers. You don't just hand them a book and say, hey, take it away. You need to invest in that to improve those things. I've always been a believer in what I call the whole child. That it's not just reading and writing and arithmetic, it's confidence, cooperation, caring. We've got amazing outdoor environmental programs that teach kids about place and environment and those kinds of things.
Jeff, we are unfortunately out of time.
Okay.
Is there anything that you'd like to speak to that we haven't brought up that you care strongly about, or that we that indicate that you should be elected to the school board?
You know, I think for me, the energy that I put into being a member of the school board, you noticed on the little list I gave you, show up and be prepared. That's who Jeff Smith is. My son's a singer-songwriter of some consequence. And has a line in one of his songs that says, "It's not what you say, it's what you do." And I think that's who I am.
We probably got that from you.
I think I deserve royalties.
What's your son's name?
He is the White Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
He's Jake Smith.
Sure.
Cool.
Well, Jeff, thank you very much for your time.
You are certainly welcome.
And I really appreciate your service and coming in here today and making the time.
Good. Thank you so much.